So when it comes to these promises and the covenant of Israel, are Gentiles included in the covenant?
No.
Okay, I'm about to give you Deuteronomy 29, the very next chapter. Watch what it says here. Deuteronomy 29, it says, verse 10, it says, you stand today, all of you, before Yahweh your God, your heads, your elders, your tribes, your officers, all the men of Israel. So all the men of Israel are together. That's all the 12 tribes, right? Okay, now, so that's all the 12 tribes are accounted for. Now watch this. It says, your little ones and your wives. So now the children and the wives of the Israelites. So all of Israel is accounted for. The men, their children, and their wives. Now watch this. You listening, brother? So watch this. It says, and the sojourner, that's not an Israelite.
Stranger.
And the stranger, the sojourner, who is within your camp, from the one who chops your wood to the one who draws your water, that you may enter the covenant with Yahweh your God and into his oath, which Yahweh your God is cutting with you today. So all the men of Israel, every single man that is an Israelite, every wife, every woman that's an Israelite, every son and daughter that's an Israelite, are all accounted for, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Who is the stranger?
The strangers could be those that are not, that you don't know. You're a stranger to me, but you're an Israelite, but you're still a stranger.
Who are the strangers? Are they
those that come in that could be strangers?
So they're
right?
so they're not Israelites?
They don't have to be the other nations. They could be strangers of
are they Israelites?
They could be Israelites.
Okay, just to be clear, in Deuteronomy 29, after the Exodus, there are stranger Israelites among the Israelites?
There could be.
Yeah.
Because just like right now, we in captivity, slavery, and bondage, right?
If you're an Israelite, you're not a stranger to an Israelite. The strangers are non-Israelites. Do you agree?
A stranger is somebody you don't know. You got two types of strangers. You got a stranger that you don't know that's an Israelite. You're a stranger to me as an Israelite.
Okay, so
now you got the other nations that's strangers too.
All right, 1 second.
That's other nations. If they are, they're not part of the covenant. We just read the covenant.
Okay. Are they? So these strangers.
So you put these strangers in the covenant.
These strangers, are they with the Israelites?
They're along. They came out of the captivity with us, right?
Okay, so they're with them, right?
Yeah.
So they know them.
Yeah.
So how are they still strangers?
They're strangers because they're the other nations.
There you go. Beautiful.
Right? Got them.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of When Christians Post Scriptures and Don't Know What the Hell He Talking About. Now, this brother here, God Logic, he goes by. God Logic was on this panel with a bunch of Edomite Christians, Christian nationalists. And the brother was shocked. He was stunned. He was mortified, by the fact that the Christian nationalists on the panel told him that, you're not even good enough for my daughter. And he was pretty much begging with the man, like, why would I not be good enough for your daughter? If I don't have any felonies, I don't do any, I'm not robbing and killing and stealing, But the Edomite straight up told him, he said, look, if there's 10 white men out there that's not killing, robbing, and stealing, they have good jobs, they don't have any felonies, I would prefer my daughter to choose between one of them instead of you. The brother almost looked like he wanted to cry on the panel. You see, it was just pitiful the way he looks. But here it is, he's out here in the streets, he calls himself an apologist, meaning that he's trying to fight, for his oppressors, the people that hate him. He's trying to fight for their salvation. He's trying to prove that, the Gentiles have a part in our covenant. Make it make sense. All right, let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 17, because the brother went to, Deuteronomy chapter 29 to try to say that the strangers are part of our covenant. Even though Jeremiah 31 tells you the covenant is for the tribe of the Judah and the house of Judah and the house of Israel. Even though it says in Hebrews chapter 8 that the covenant is for the house of Judah and for the house of Israel. You see, it didn't say the house of Edom, the house of Ammon, Moab, Ishmael. It didn't say that. It said for the house of Judah and the house of Israel. That's easy to understand. You see? So no matter what scripture you go to and get the give you the interpretation of the scriptures, you should automatically understand that, hey, Hebrews chapter 8 says the covenant is for the house of Israel and the house of Judah alone, no one else. You see? All right, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy where the brother pulled chapter 29, verse 10. It says, "Ye stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, your captains of your tribes, your elders, and your officers, with all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and the stranger that is in thy camp." You see, this is where the Christians fall off the horse. So the strangers that is in thy camp, from the ewer of thy wood unto the drawer of thy water. Why are the strangers drawing the water and cutting the wood? You see, that thou shouldest enter into covenant with the Lord thy God, and into his oath, which the Lord thy God maketh with thee this day. Now, pay attention, pay close attention to where it says the hewer of thy wood, the stranger, the hewer of thy wood unto the drawer of thy water, because the strangers are doing all the laborious work in the camp. You see? Now let's go back to Genesis. All right, this is the book of Genesis chapter 17, because our servants were of the other nations. You see? We were able to buy servants of the other nations, bondmen and bondwomen of the other nations. You see? But as long as they are in our land, in our households, they had to fall in line with this right here. It says, verse 10, "This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations. He that is born in thy house, or bought with thy money of any stranger." I'm going to pause right there so you can look at it. So, the stranger of the other nations that we bought as bond servants and maid servants in our households, they have to come in line with that covenant, the circumcision. You see? So he is bought with your money of any stranger which is not of thy seed. He is not of your seed. He is not an Israelite. He is not he's not of your seed. He's not your people. You see? Verse 13. "He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money," there it goes again. You bought somebody with your money. He's got to come in under that covenant of the circumcision. So, "And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant." So that's easy to understand. See, these apologists, they want to know that, they can pull the wool over your eyes as long as you don't have a good understanding of the scripture, a good understanding of the Old Testament. You see, they feel like it's like taking candy from a baby if you're not learned in these scriptures. You see? So if I have a church, and I have heathens or Gentiles in my church, and they feel like they're not welcome, then I stand to lose a lot of money. You see? So I have to misinterpret these scriptures and pull the wool over your eyes to keep my congregation intact. Now let's jump down to verse 23. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin, in the selfsame day as God had said unto him. See? So that is the covenant that they're entering into, the circumcision. All right, let's go to the book of Leviticus, chapter 25. So there's many places you can go to prove that the Israelites were referred to as strangers. You see, when the Bible was translated from the Hebrew to the English language, you know, the same word stranger was used in both instances, you see. But in the Hebrew, you have two different words to describe those who are of another nation, the strangers of another nation, and the strangers of your own people. Just like you have Gentiles, natural Gentiles of another nation, Goyim, and you have strangers of your own people, you know, who are being called strangers simply because they were not keeping the covenant. You see, they were into idolatry. They were keeping the customs of the heathens. So they were called strangers. They were called heathens. They were called Gentiles. You see? But in the English language, we only have one word for stranger. But they are interchangeable. They are referring to both. You see? Easy to understand. But like I said, those Christians, the pastors in the church, if they explain it to you the way it's supposed to be, then they would lose, 75% of their congregation. That's a lot of money going down the drain. So they got to keep you in darkness, So verse 35 says, and if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger, your Israelite brother is a stranger or a sojourner, your Israelite brother who is referred to as a sojourner, that he may live with thee. Take thou no usury of him or increase. Don't charge the brother rent. He's out of town and he needs a place to lay his head. But you cannot take usury of him. You cannot charge him rent. But fear thy God, that thy brother may live with thee. Now, if the brother feels so inclined, he wants to put something on the table, then let him do so. If he feels like, I need to buy some groceries or something, then allow him that leisure to do so. Let's look at verse 42. It says, for they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. You cannot sell your brother, your Israelite brother or sister, as bondmen or bond women. Verse 43, thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shalt fear thy God. You see? Verse 44, both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. You see that? So you cannot rule over your brother with rigor. You cannot buy him as a slave, but of the heathen you can buy them. You see? That's why you can buy them to cut your wood or draw your water. You see? The strangers are going to be amongst us in the kingdom. But that doesn't mean they're going to have our covenant. They're going to be there only as servants and bondmaids. That's easy to understand. Verse 45, moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you. So the strangers in this instance is of the other nations. See, so that's the difference. You see, in the same chapter, you have strangers being used to refer to your brother that is waxing poor and of the heathens. So the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. But the covenant that they're going to keep is the circumcision. They have to be circumcised. Verse 46, and ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But of your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor. See that? So there's a distinction. You know, this word stranger, it can be interchangeable. But imagine if the pastor read this in the Christian church or in the Roman Catholic church. You know, the church would be empty. You see? Overnight, the church would be empty. Sunday service would be canceled, you know? So in order to keep their money, their funds coming in, they have to count on the fact that you are unlearned, you see, that you don't know the difference. When it says, for God so loved the world, you don't know, the typical Joe Blow does not understand that the world is referring to the Israelites only. You see? So I hope that this was edifying to you. You know, don't listen to these deceptive apologists, you know, that go home and chop and screw the videos, you know, before, you know, the correct answer comes out. You see, that's very deceptive, you know, very wicked practice, you know, to keep you in the dark. Shalom.